It's a new week. At least we are starting the working day from today. And I'd like to welcome your family to our transmission today. This is Good Morning Anambra. And in a very short while, we're going to bring you the first program we have lined up for your viewing pleasure this morning, and that's Press Review. By the way, my name is Sijama Uche. Welcome. Okay, welcome again. Joining me this morning to look at what the papers are saying is Samuel Ololo. Samuel Ololo is our public affairs analyst. One name that I would have actually gone to school to learn how to pronounce it, but I think I got it this time. Sam, good morning.
You did get it. Good morning, Ife. Good morning, Anambra.
Okay, my name is IJ.
IJ.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're welcome. From our website this morning, we have the first story saying industrialist Chukwuma extols Soludo for promoting local brands. And then Anambra at 32, Police Commissioner felicited Soludo in the Anambra 40th anniversary, Curtis Cable PLC honors co-founder Wosu. And finally from here, Soludo congratulates new NIPL president and the council members. These and many more are the stories you'll find from our website this morning, www.absradiotv.com. Yeah, Anambra is 32. Let's start there. Can you just look at the overview of what is on ground, considering the age of the states?
First of all, we will say congratulations to Anambra. 32 years is not a small feat, regardless, but looking at a state, at a nation, compared with other countries that have said 150 years, you see that we are still coming up. We are all in Anambra State, and I'm looking at what we've achieved for 32 years and trying to just oppose it with the standard of living of Anambra. We would say a lot has actually happened. Anambra State, being in Nigeria, has been a theoretical center where the good, the bad, and the ugly has really been coming up. So this 32 years that we are celebrating calls for introspection in the sense that beyond the state and the resources in terms of revenue that the state is making, we would really want to begin to look down at the level of standard of living of an average Anambra. And the good thing is you don't even find or you don't even measure this standard of living when you come to the urban areas. Just go to the rural areas. The kind of life those people live, how easy it is for them to get some of the basic amenities will really tell us how far we have gone. I know it's subject to a lot of debate, looking at the successive governments that we have had, looking at including the military junta and then our so-called so many years now of civilian and democracy regime in Anambra State. We have been promised a lot. The current governor, Professor Charles Soludo, has said he is looking at making Anambra livable and prosperous. And it is now the onus lies on all Anambra states and all well-meaning diasporans to support that cause. And first of all, there must be a vision. And once there is a vision, everybody will need to rally around it. And is he working towards it? I think he is. Looking at what is on ground, looking at the infrastructure development that they are coming up with. But for me, if I am to say, I am going to say there still needs to be a lot to be done in the aspect of sensitizing the Anambra how to key in. I mean, government belongs to everybody. We barely know what the governor is doing. And then that shows that those handling his media aides would need to up their game. And those who are who are serving as connect between the governor and the citizens also need to up their game. Yeah, we would say that after all, I know I've listened to the governor on several occasions, come to ABS too to talk to Anambra, but the question now is how many people have light, how many people watch the television? We need every paraphernalia of government to be working and let them work for the interest of Anambra. But 32 years, there's still a lot that an average Anambra expects from the government.
Okay, it's a project in progress. That's what Anambra State is, and that's what it should be with any other place. I know that Anambra State was created alongside some other states. Let's quickly look at, by way of comparison, how far we have fared, looking at the closest state that we have, which is Delta State, that was created alongside Anambra State.
Okay, looking at Delta State too, infrastructural-wise, I would say before now, Delta State under Okowa was doing massively well. And well, you know, one thing with governance, and that is one thing that we public analysts have cried about, there has been this gap between successive governments. So any government or any governor that comes in power comes in with his own ideology and with his own zeal and gusto and with whatever he wants to do. They don't usually look at what is on the table. Of course, our dear governor, the ex-governor, that's Chief Willie Obiano. And when you look at infrastructure, some of us would argue that the airport that he gave us is still part of what should lead to IGR to the state. Okowa, of course, met airport in Delta State. Then when we come to education, Anambra State has been doing exceedingly well. Back to back, you see the students representing not just the state, but Nigeria. And if you look at Delta State, I wouldn't know to what extent that they have also tried to pull that width. But generally looking at it, every state is growing at their own pace. But regardless of that, I think we should be interested in the governor or the government opening that communication channel between the citizens and then themselves, the government.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's look at what's still coming from Anambra State, what the industrialists are doing here. The first story, we're going to merge it with the first story. The first one says, Industrial Chukwuma extols Soludo for promoting local brands. Yeah, you know who is Chukwuma? I think he's a innocent, okay. And then the third story here says, 40th anniversary, Kutis Kebo PSC Honors co-founder, Mosu. If you look at what the Anambra name individually, okay, how does it impact on the growth of the state, considering how old we are? Because I know that if you go to other states that were created alongside Anambra, you won't get the kind of quality of industries or industrialists that we'll have here. Has it really impacted on us?
Okay. So that is a subject for debate, really. At individual capacity, Anambra State and Anambra indigenes, and other times people who are dwelling in Anambra State are doing exceedingly well. But I think we still lack that disconnect between how the government functions and what is expected of the citizens. Everything should actually really connect. The government in Nigeria most at times put in their policies based on what they think will favor their administration, which is not completely wrong. But I think also there should be this strong cohesion, there should be this strong bond between the public servants, the government, and then the private servants. The likes of Innocent has been doing exceedingly well. And then we might argue that the government has been patronizing them. The likes of Kutis, I've engaged the man. He's very, very he's a sound man. And if he gives you his dream for Anambra State, you would marvel. Even the governor himself, the current governor, was one time CBN governor. So you see people who have sharp and smart brain in Anambra State. But what we want to see now is, even with their industries, they have created jobs for the citizens and for the Anambra. But beyond that, I think we want to see a stronger partnership between the government and these industries. We want to make sure that these industries, if they are supposed or if they are expected to remit IGR to the government, they do that judiciously. We want to make sure that the government, in return, utilizes every IGR that they get to the welfare of the citizens. I mean, the current governor of Anambra State is priding Anambra State to be one of the states that would be the beacon of light in Nigeria. So we want to ensure that when it comes to education, things are actually done as it's supposed to be done. When it comes to healthcare, we want to see renovation of healthcare. And I know the government cannot perform miracles. So there should be that cohesion between the generation, the fund the government generates from their own investments and the IGR that they get both from civil servants, taxpayers, and that of these companies. We want to really see that strong cohesion. And there should be a policy behind that. But I must give it to the Anambra. They have been doing exceedingly well in terms of industrialization. And beyond Anambra State government, Nigeria should also promote local content. That is the only way we can grow the Naira.
Not just the state. Okay, let there be this partnership between the public and the private sector for our economy to grow. That's exactly the sum up of what we are saying here. All right, Soludo, congrats, new NIPR president, council member. You guys went to this election and grabbed everything and came back. Okay, I think it was a good fight. You have anything to say about the recent election of the NIPR? You know that he's an Anambra man that cleaned
the good thing there is Anambra fights a lot, and then when we go into competitions, we just don't come out without having something reasonable. So also this is an opportunity for NIPR to both the council and the president to see that every agency has a role to play in the development of Nigeria. They have their mandate well cut out. So beyond emerging as the president, he should also understand that there are roles and responsibilities that is expected of them, that they need to contribute to the development of the country. So what we can do is to congratulate them and then wish them well.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's now venture into the papers. Daily Sun is our first paper. And the banner headline there says, again, Atiku raises issues over Tinubu's varsity degree, with some writers says he is wondering how President got varsity degree, allegedly without primary, secondary education. That's what Niger cannot do, does not exist. So you got a university degree, you don't have primary and secondary school certificate. Okay, which that's supposed to qualify you for university education. Okay, we'll move on. Federal government insists on December takeoff date for PH, that's Port Harcourt Refinery. And that story is beside the name template there. That's where you get that story down here. Ohaneze asked Tinubu to free Kano. Ohaneze asked Tinubu to free Kano. How long and how many times will this asking be coming around? Is there no other thing that is supposed to do apart from asking? Okay. Other stories coming from here says the federal government abandons 16 billion naira Boeing 737 training simulator in Zaria. And then suspense in Benue as Aliyah Oba awaits Guba tribunal judgment. Okay, let's move on to New National Star. Crude oil theft. Nigeria loses 400,000 barrels per day coming from Ribadu. With some writers there, says activities of oil thieves, pipeline vendors impacting negatively on nation's economy. Pledges government action against vandalism. NNPP crisis, BOT missed today as Kwankwaso and Yebunam fight over control of party. Flood kills 2 children in Anambra. Very bad news, even as We have been warned to expect the mother of flood coming very soon. He has already taken 2 lives here. Atiku tackles Tinubu over inconsistency in academic records. Okay, and then beware of propaganda. Divisiveness on social media, Pope tells lawmakers, which of the lawmakers? Nigerian or the lawmakers? Okay, Supreme Court grants Police Service Commission power to recruit police personnel. Tinubu urges U.S. to deepen cooperation, defense of democracy in Africa. No, we take that again. Tinubu urges U.S. to deepen cooperation and defense of democracy in Africa, even when they're asking you to go to war. Okay, let's look at another paper before we start talking. The next paper is the Daily Times. Teach us how to go to varsity without primary and secondary school education. And this is still coming from Atiku. Atiku tells Tinubu, teach us how you went to university without primary and the secondary school education. Federal government to stop servicing external debts with 90% revenue, Tinubu. And then do we still have another story coming from? At last, seat ties, FCTA directors bow out. Wike is round peg in a round hole. Group urges Akwa Ibom to deepen tourism sites for revenue. A whole lot of other stories coming from here. Let's get back to where we started. What actually is going on between Tinubu and then Atiku? I think Atiku, of all the things that he has taken to the tribunal, he is very consistent about Tinubu's educational qualification, which of course he was trying to bring out that this man is not qualified to contest the election in the first place based on the inconsistency in his educational qualification. But I remember that a minister nominee then, but now a minister, that was asked in the National Assembly when he was being probed why he has only 2 passes, or was it even passes or credits, and still went to university. Of course, he said he had other certificates, but he feels that this is just the one he wants to give to you people. Who are you people? You people that made the Constitution, that all you need to do, or all you need to have is a knowledge of reading and writing before you can become a president of Nigeria, not even having a certificate, a secondary school certificate. But if you know how to read and write, you are qualified to be a president. How much more me that had gone to university, just that, I mean to secondary school, just that I had only 2 credits. A whole lot of things are happening here. Sam Ololo.
Okay, let me anchor my thoughts and analysis on what on the publication made at National Star, where Tinubu is urging U.S. to deepen cooperation and then defense of democracy in Africa.
Oh no, before we get to that place, let's look at this certificate issue.
I'm coming to there. I'm coming to there, but let me anchor on that, because you're looking at...
you want to come out from there.
I'm looking at, because first of all, there should be a framework to start with. And that framework that majority of the world countries all over are practicing is democracy. And part of what democracy has a standard where everybody is allowed to go in. I mean, you are allowed to dream, you are allowed to achieve your dream, you are allowed to be protected, is as enshrined. And for you to achieve your dreams, there are expectations, right? There are standards that needs to be met. Now, coming down to going for the position of the president, if the Constitution has said it is first school leaving certificate or O-level, that is what we are practicing. So my question is, if that is what the Constitution has allowed, why is it still a problem? If it's supposed to be a problem, I'm sure that there are institutions that were created to really forestall that issue. What were they doing? What did they do? And currently, what are they doing? What is Nigeria trying to do to stop this kind of drama that we are facing? You know, we might think it is just a fight between Tinubu and Atiku, not knowing that it is also rubbing off on our national image. For crying out loud, we are going to, these days, thank God for internet and then social media, where we now have interactions with other youths of the world in different youth fora. So how do we present ourselves when we make salient issues? Because our leaders are representing, they are the face of the country before they begin to see us. And then this is the kind of conversation that we are having. And last week, India celebrated their first launch to the moon. That is
on the South Pole.
The South Pole of the moon.
The first to land
that is the extent that country has gone. And India and Nigeria almost had independence at the same time.
Yeah, growing up in secondary school, they told us that we are all developing countries.
And they were all at the same time. And they were also all colonized by England, the British. So see how far England has gone, but see where we are. And the thing is, when you want to see the trajectory of a country, how successful that they are becoming or that they hope to become, look at the conversation that is going on in that country. For us, we are still asking the current president his qualification. The previous one, we were really curious to know same qualification, but it was not as intense as it is now. Well, many persons will argue that this is a growing and a developing nation. So a lot of things would come up, we would always address them.
How long are you going to develop? How long are you going to grow?
So that is the next question we are asking.
The countries who had the same independence at the same time has gone very much
very far ahead of us. And it is not only that we are growing, we are at reverse gear.
Yeah, that's what are you actually growing?
If you look at the statistics. So the question now is, I think Nigerians...
In the past, we were led with men of integrity that really went to school, they zigged them, and now we are being led by people that didn't go to primary school. Are you growing?
So for me now, would I say they did not go to primary school? It is very difficult to say they did not. We know that they did, looking at it by normal human analysis.
But the question is, as long as you don't have any proof to show.
Okay, that is another...
That's the issue. If you say you went to primary and secondary school, give us your certificate.
And then there should be nothing wrong.
Don't you have yours?
Yeah, I even have this stored in my phone.
Okay, so how can you convince me that you did when you don't have anything to prove?
So
that is what Atiku is saying.
Yeah, this calls for serious concern, and it is good that these questions are coming up. You know, over the years in Nigeria, a lot of things have not been questioned. We see people do things and get away with them, and our leaders must understand that both their actions and inactions have a way it rubs off on the citizens.
It is.
When those who are supposed to, currently I'm one of the champions of inclusive education in Anambra State and in Nigeria, trying to create enabling environment for persons with disability to go to school. When the resources that should be plugged in to the welfare of this community is squandered, people might just talk about it and say, he has squandered 60 million or he has squandered 100 million. Forgetting that there are lives of people who should have been improved, and whatever happens to them indirectly was caused by the inaction of those who were supposed to take care of them.
Definitely. Let's move on.
So the institution-wise, there are those who should serve as check and balance.
Okay.
Looking at this now, as Atiku is questioning this to the tribunal, in the tribunal too, we expect fair judgment from the tribunal.
Okay. The Punch newspaper. Cameroon dam opening, evacuates to prevent deaths. Federal government stays one flood-prone communities. And then, what other stories do we have coming from here? Okay, servicing debt, we have seen this story. Let's move to another paper, the Guardian newspaper. Federal government's estimate reduces unemployment on paper amidst almost 10 million naira job deficit. Is the banner headline coming from the Guardian newspaper. And from Guardian we'll move to Independent, the Daily Independent. Okay, Daily Independent newspaper, weak results hamper CBN intervention in forest markets. As the banner headline there with a rider there, as dollar exchanges for 930 naira at the parallel market. Nigeria, oh Nigeria. Okay, down here, 12.2 billion naira Boeing 373 Nigeria aircraft fire lifting simulators rot away. I think we have seen that story somewhere. that the thing is rotting away in where Zaria, okay, 3 years after federal governments acquired them to boost revenue. What are we doing? Do we have a line? So what are you acquiring this for? Sarab gives Tinubu 48 hours to reverse ban on media houses from Aso Rock. Sarab gives Tinubu 48 hours to reverse ban on media houses from Aso Rock. No law stops me as core member from being a minister, Hayanatu Musawa. And then Supreme Court rules in favor of PSC in recruitment of police constable. Subsidy removal, cartel frustrating us, deceiving people. And NAF aircraft sells oil thieves, militants, terrorists, kills several. Okay, whatever they mean by that. Minister outlines vision for immigration, fire, correctional services. That's a story here that I would like us to look at when we come back. That's the Sarab giving order, 48 hours orders, okay? Yeah, other papers this day. Haven't I seen this day? I think I've seen this day. Okay, no. This day newspaper. On top of the Nente place, at Rwanda retreats, Nigeria government declares effective leadership in high demand in Africa. And then the banner headline there, Tinubu, Nigeria cannot continue debt servicing with 90% of revenue. That's the banner headline on this day newspaper. We'll move over to Tribune. Flood. Cameroon plans to open Lagdo Dam, writes Nigeria as usual. You know you're a dumping ground, so whenever we want to dump our flood, we open it and then dump it in Nigeria because you can do nothing. Federal government activates NEMA to avert disaster as usual. And then hard decisions needed to reset Nigeria's growth trajectory. This is coming from Tinubu. Hard decision again. We have taken 1, 2, and then perhaps the third one is on the pipeline. Hard decision, only affecting the masses. Okay, the Nation newspaper is our next paper. Tinubu servicing debts with 90%. We have seen that story. Let's move on to Daily Trust. Massive flood looms in states as Cameroon plans to open dam as usual. Can we get anything different from the riders? Adama, Wataraba, Kogi, Benue, Nasarawa, Plateau, others at risk. Oh, that's not a number. And then water volume higher than last year's minister is saying this. Water volume that is coming this year is higher than that of the last year. NEMA tells residents to relocate to my house. Okay. And then increased controversies over Nigeria's foreign reserve. Last paper this morning is the Vanguard newspaper. Anxiety in flood-prone states as Cameroon opens Lagdo Dam. And then government efforts failing as food imports rise 122%. Deficit hit 4.9 trillion naira. Government efforts failing as food imports rise 122%. Deficit is 4.9 trillion naira. Jesus have mercy on this country. Okay, Ololo, where do we start?
It's actually a mouthful. Let's begin from some of the basic economics. Our dollar at 930, racing to 1,000, and we don't know if it will get to 1,000 before December, which is spelling calamity upon more calamity for us as citizens. We have a lot that we are handling as a people, and this is directly attributed to the kind of leadership that we have had over the years and the current leadership that we are having. For crying out loud, in a country like Nigeria, where we are crying, as reported, that the dollar is 930, and even the governors themselves would always encourage use local, do everything local, to discuss the issues of Nigeria that are going to Rwanda. This is still putting pressure on the Naira that we don't have. These are the people that we are expected to be our leaders, that are expected to make decisions in our favor. So when we look at the trend of things and the kind of decisions they make, we would know if we are even making a headway. But for me, not trying to be an agent of doom or a purveyor of bad news, it's unfortunate that we are still yet to get our governors to begin to take decisions in the interests solely of the masses. They are not doing that. That is for the Naira and the consequent effect that is going to have on Nigerians. Last year's flood in 2022 was reported as so far one of the worst, as in the highest that has hit Nigeria. And from what the ministry and what NEMA is saying, that this year the volume of water would be more than that of last year. We happened to carry out intervention funding, intervention to riverine, that's flood victims at Obaru, Anambra West, Oka North. When I went to those places rather, and saw the level of water, some houses were actually covered. I tried to imagine how those people survived. And funny enough, some of them stayed in that situation. Some of them did not leave. They were using canoe as their means of transportation, just that they moved to the upper story buildings. And till now, I'm still trying to imagine how those people survived. And we have a country that should be making plans ahead of time so that whatever happened the last time will not repeat itself again. But the way things are going on...
That's exactly what I wanted to ask.
Beyond...
We had very horrible flood last year. Is there anything that the federal government puts in place to ensure that at least we contend the coming years, the flood, of the coming years, or just to be telling us this? Now they have asked people to move. And I asked, where are they moving? To my house?
Okay, so
where are the provisions you have made, knowing fully well what happened last year and that it will eventually come the following year? Is the time like at most not enough for you to see how you can avert this? Maybe dig a bigger dam, construct your own dam and this and that can take care of this water as it flows. How are we going to continue like this?
Well, we cannot continue like this as a people, but we are expecting that those who are providing leadership should give us effective leadership. Ordinarily, before now, when you want to see the interest of the government, look at their budget. When you look at where they have said they are spending money, it will show you what they are interested in doing. We more of are reactionary than running a preventive kind of governance. This is the time where, River Niger actually is a tributary to Atlantic Ocean. So I think this should have been a national project, maybe each state contributing their own quota. They should dredge the river channel so that even if Cameroon opens their dam or whatever, water can flow in and go straight into and fall and collapse into the Atlantic Ocean. But here we are still battling with flooding. And let's not forget that Anambra State is an erosion site, really. So while we are fighting with drainage control, well, let me give kudos to the governor for the desilting of drainages that they are doing. But I think beyond desilting and pouring out the sand and dumping them on the road, there should also be plans to remove those sands. Otherwise, when the flooding starts again, those sands will still find themselves into the river channel. But that apart, I think as a people, we need to be intentional. Intentional to the extent that we don't have to continue demeaning these victims. What would we do after flooding? We'll go and give them handouts like a pint of rice. That is what we begin to hear. People want to give them rice. People want to give them clothes. But beyond that, their livelihood will not be the same. Some of them, we just reported, by the way, to the 2 children that lost their lives in Anambra last week. I heard that information. I got the news that day it happened. In fact, from the nurse that was trying to revive one of the girls, a 12-year-old girl, for what the nurse said. These are things that should not really happen in our country, really. We are battling with a lot of things, and we need our leaders to be intentional. They need to provide purposeful leadership. With what is going on, I think as a country, we might not really have people or Nigeria to really hold on to if the government of the day don't begin to give us that purposeful leadership that we need.
Okay. Shortly before we go, Serap gives Tinubu 48 hours to reverse ban on media houses from Aso Rock. Why would the federal government ban media houses from showcasing what is going on from the seat of power of a whole nation? Okay, let's merge this one with the story we saw. Where was that? I think it's Daily Sun. Okay, where Ohanaeze is telling the president to release Nnamdi Kanu, which of course has lasted for years. And I asked a question: how do you take your request to the next level? And then from the Serap, what do you, after 48 hours, what would they do to ensure that the ultimatum they gave is adhered to? Okay.
Okay, so it's good that this is still happening under the same government and president that has called for deepened cooperation and defense of democracy in Africa. And he is the chairman of ECOWAS. So we want to see him not just talk, but walk the talk. Mm-hmm. Looking at it, I mean, many a times we always say press freedom is as important as anything. And the media has a role to play in the development of a country. We're also crying about misinformation. We're also crying about a lot of issues. We're also crying about the clampdown of journalists. These are things that should not be heard in a country that claims to practice democracy. And then this is where we are. At the State House, they are preventing particular media houses from gaining access. The question now is it proper? It is not. I think the media houses can sue the State House and then get judgment from the court. But all this is political. But I think there should be a thin line. There should be a boundary between politics and governance. When it is time to play your politics, you can play your politics. Even though we are saying that politics should be played with human face. How much more when you are providing governance? I mean, when you are providing governance, regardless of people's, I mean, you are expected to carry the good, the bad, and the ugly in line with the provisions of the law, and not because you feel you hold the big stick, you can use it on anybody. Still talking about the release of Nnamdi Kanu, I think this is a cry that has lasted for so long. And the previous administration did not do anything. The current administration has not said anything. I want to imagine the health status of that gentleman. I also want to imagine how his family has been coping up, his wife and his children, and as well as other extended family. Is it that they have given off their child? Okay, let this one now go. But I think...
What would they do?
For us to really say we are practicing democracy, the rule of law must take its course, and not the government doing whatever they think they want to do at their own disposal.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Samuel Ololo, thank you for joining us this morning to look at what the papers are saying. And I'd like to thank you, those of you that watch from home. Thank you very much. And do remember that this is just Monday. Newspaper Review will continue till Friday. My name is Sijoma. Good morning.